Hey, what's up, guys? This is Adam D'Angeli from the Rescue Michigan Coalition. It's our weekly live stream. And tonight we've got two very special guests, rock star attorneys in Michigan, Philip Ellison and Matthew Gronda. They are going to be discussing a number of important cases that they've been involved with, and they will be answering your questions as well. So we're looking very forward to that. But since we are just getting started. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Adam D'Angeli from the Rescue Michigan Coalition. It's our Sorry about that. I had to mute my YouTube channel. I wanted to make sure that it was connected because we had a problem with that last week, and it looks like things are going okay. In fact, I'm just going to close the window because I don't want that to be interfering. Anyway, before we bring our guests out, I just want to go over a few bits of news. First of all, the Unlock Michigan group has now filed at the state Supreme Court a petition demanding that the Board of State Canvassers certify the 500,000 petitions that they turned in last year to overturn the Emergency Powers of Governor Act, which, as you may know, was actually struck down by the state Supreme Court on the same day that they turned in their petition signatures. Nevertheless, it's still important that the citizen-initiated process goes through, and it's especially important for us because we're pursuing the same sort of thing with Michigan's election reform law. So that is moving forward. I don't know whether or not they filed a petition for emergency consideration, so we don't know how soon that is going to happen. But we hope that they have success with that as soon as possible. Secondly, just wanted to give you guys an update about what's going on with our election reform proposal. And as you know, we've been developing a number of different elements that we're hoping all will be rolled into one citizen-initiated law, or it will be a petition that will hopefully become a law. But we are now looking to have several of the elements of that proposal that were not included so far in the state Senate's election reform package introduced in the House, and that's going to be coming up very soon. And on that note, we have also had a very interesting story out of Tennessee, where the state legislature recently passed a bill requiring watermarks on absentee ballots. And this is one thing that our proposal included that has not yet been introduced in the bill. Ours, I think, called for color inks and microprinting. Theirs is calling for watermarks, but it's an interesting story. First, because it received bipartisan support in the Tennessee legislature. In fact, there's even a quote in the story from the Democrat, Antonio Parkinson, saying Democrats are for secure elections. And it passed in the Senate 27-0, in the House 92-1. You can look up the bill, although the number in this article is incorrect. It's actually Senate Bill 1315. If you go to rescuemichigan.com, we have posted a link to the bill so you can read that yourself. One more thing I wanted to let you guys know about, because this came into my inbox. That's not it. This came into my inbox from somebody, so this is apparently going around. This is a Secretary of State webpage. It says Voting System Advisory Committee, and people are asking what the heck this is. Volunteers wanted, voting system functionality subcommittees. Over the past several weeks, I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but you can see this looks like something funny is going on, and they're recruiting members of the public to participate in these discussions. However, if you read this carefully, if you scroll down to the bottom, it says here that they want to see submissions by next Friday, October 4th. And of course, it is nowhere near October. And in fact, it says the vendor fair will likely occur in early 2014. So it appears that this webpage is completely outdated and that it was just automatically updated with the new Secretary of State's name at the top of the page. So if you get this email with a link to this, please let anyone know. This is probably a mistake. This is probably not something that's really happening. So, all right. I don't want to take up any more time because we've got two very special guests on tonight. And we want to encourage everybody in the chat to please participate. We want to answer your questions. There's a whole lot to talk about, and whether that's what's going on with election reform or with the cases we'll be discussing, please do chime in. We do love our audience participation, and we did not get that last week, unfortunately, because there was some kind of mix-up with YouTube, and it sent everybody to the wrong video link. So with that, I'm going to bring on Matt Gronda and Phil Ellison, and the way that the system is working is that I think it switches between the two of them as they're talking. So to my right, you see Matt Gronda, and so Matt, you can introduce yourself and then give Phil a chance to say hello. But let me just introduce you to how I got to know you guys. And it actually kind of happened through two different things at once. First, there was As I was working for Representative Riley, we have a constituent who has an extraordinary legal situation that we're going to be talking about later tonight. And I don't want to give it away just yet, but he was looking for representation. And when I was at the Capitol, a friend of mine who works for Great Lakes Gun Rights, which is a prominent state affiliate of the National Association for Gun Rights, had said, you should call this guy Phil Ellison. He's good at suing the government. He likes to sue the government. And we kind of beared that in mind. And then at the same time, I was also getting involved with a group called Michigan United for Liberty. And totally unrelated to me, I had no connection to you guys at the time, but it turned out you were the attorneys in their lawsuit against Gretchen Whitmer for the lockdown. So why don't we start with talking about that? Because the case that the state actually heard was the subsequent suit, I believe, brought by the House and the Senate. I guess they got priority just because of who they were. But there was some concern at the time, wasn't there, that might have a standing issue that your suit might not. And in the email blast I sent out telling everybody that we're going to have this interview tonight, I included the link to what was your appeal. And I pointed out this was, and it struck me. And I'm not an attorney myself, but I am involved in a lot of legal topics, especially when I was working at the legislature. How elegantly written it was and how straight to the point it was at making the separation of powers argument. So anyway, with all that said, Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you guys got involved in suing the state over the lockdowns? And I'm sure we can take this conversation a million different ways. So let's just see where it goes. So let's start with that.
Well, I mean, it started with like anything, it starts with a telephone call. And, first thing that happens is, Matt will call me or I'll call him and people will call us. And much like yourself, Adam, we'll get folks who've got questions and concerns. And the Michigan United folks contacted us. And of course, we're our names are getting out there quite regularly with the kind of work that we do, suing governments in different ways for different reasons. And of course, the pandemic has provided yet another great opportunity for why people like Matt and I need to exist, which we wish we didn't. We wish we could do other types of law, but unfortunately for society, but fortunate for us, we get to be able to go and swing the big bat to try to hold the government to be accountable. And of course, the Michigan United case is one that was a group of individuals that just felt that what the governor was doing was inappropriate, was an abuse of power of this idea that there's one person can control almost all aspects of Michigan society. And they turned to us. And of course, we started researching the issue and pretty quickly came to the conclusion that, this was a separation of powers issue. In fact, I think, and Matt might be able to confirm because I'm not recalling it offhand, I think we were the first to file on this. And as a result of that, I'd like to take that I would like our name to have been on the final case, obviously, but what started as kind of a way to start the building blocks resulted in the legislature picking up the case and running with it. And of course, the legislature case was picked up by the Midwest Physicians Group out of Grand Rapids, which was ultimately the one which was called the Certified Questions case. So if you see that name when you're talking and doing your research or reading, you hear about the NRA, which is it's like RE, but we call it NRA, Certified Questions. That's the physician's case. And that's the one that ultimately struck down the 45 law as unconstitutional. And of course, it all flowed back down the line that our cases no longer were relevant anymore because of what the Michigan Supreme Court had already ruled. But we like to think we had our small part of it, but but the basic part of this is that we're just very glad that the Supreme Court didn't rule the other way, because I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more other crisis on and on and on, whether it's fill in the blank, whether it's regardless of what party, to be perfectly honest. I'm just not comfortable with the idea that one person can control all aspects of our lives, because we're supposed to be living in a free and open society that way.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain your case was filed before the House and Senate's case was, and I'd say, you hit the nail right on the head in your argument. And in fact, I'll just pull this up here. Let's see if I can show this. This is from your appeal, and you make this excellent point. This is right on page 1. There is no real or legal reason to cast aside the entire separation of powers for political or public policy expediency. Many governments, both modern and ancient, have collapsed because a leader, however well-intentioned, And I think at this point we can agree she's not that well-intentioned. But giving her the benefit of the doubt, cries emergency and the consent of the governor is cast aside for the greater good. And, you know, I have to suspect that the people whose lawsuit ultimately was taken up might have borrowed some of these lines of reasoning from your case, because, I mean, there's more than one way they could have attacked this. And there's all kinds of cases on questions of religious liberty, questions of political freedom. There's some concern happening right now. I've been reaching out to grassroots organizations around the state, and a lot of them are having difficulty even just meeting without fear of being shut down by the health department. There is a political organization that's meeting regularly that suddenly got a call from the health department saying there was some concern they were violating the governor's restrictions on how many people can assemble. And it seems a cut and dried issue of restricting the right to political assembly. But what your suit went to was the very essence of the entire thing, that the governor cannot just be a dictator, period. And it really took in and encompassed all of the different things that entails. And I think you say somewhere in here, and I don't think it takes too long. Yeah, right here. Government transparency laws administrating hearing students have been halted or suspended. Driver's licensing, according with vehicle and watercraft registrations, are halted. By the way, a friend of mine just told me a few days ago, he went to renew his license. The Secretary of State says you can't get an appointment until June or July, maybe he said. I mean, this stuff just keeps on going on and on and on, and it's damaging our state each and every day. So, anyway,
we'll stay tuned on that one. We'll
Yeah.
just tell you that, not to tip our hand, but stay tuned.
There's something in the works on that one, Adam.
Excellent. All right. Well, keep us posted.
Just to clarify, Adam. Phil, you might be forgetting. Michigan United was definitely the first separation of powers case that was out there, which was kind of frustrating on our end. Phil and I at that point, that was kind of in the hard lockdown, maybe 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks into it. And what we couldn't understand, there's 10,000 lawyers in the state. Where are you all at? No one had filed a thing, with the exception of you, Phil. I think you're forgetting you had already filed the FOIA case.
Oh, that's right, the FOIA case.
Hey, we had a brief hiccup there. It looks like everything is back online again. So you guys kind of...
Phil was explaining the FOIA case, also paralleling that Phil had filed. At that time we were hearing a whole lot about the science and the data, and Phil said, well, all right, we're going to send out a FOIA and we're going to find out some of that information, and was told by the state that FOIA had been suspended. So here you're in a situation where you're using FOIA, which was designed to basically permit open and transparent government. They're not handing out any of the information that they're supposedly basing the decisions on, and yet you also have one person making all the decisions. So the cases were good. We call them bookend cases, kind of addressing two different ways of trying to address similar issues.
Excellent. Hold on, guys. I'm just noticing. I think when we had that hiccup a moment ago, I might have lost the chat. So if you are in chat, please just send a text or something into the chat box just so I can see that we're back online. If not, I'm going to try to have someone at least alert me, because I really don't want to miss out on the audience interaction